Welcome to the Cycling Roadmap Weekly Show. My name is Sheridan, and today we're going to review last week's action in Étoile de Bessèges, the Volta Comunitat Valenciana, as well as the stages that have finished in the Tour of Oman up to this point. We will take a look at the third release of the UCI Points, and then also have a look at the races coming up. So let's get started. All right, let's take a look at the Étoile de Bessèges from last week. The start list was not stellar. There was the incident last year with a handful of cars that made their way onto the course. One or two riders crashed and had to abandon, and then after I think maybe two or three stages, pretty much half to two-thirds of the entire peloton had withdrew from the race. So this year the start list, like I said, is not stellar. We had 4 World Tour teams: Alpecin, Premier Tech, Groupama, Decathlon, and Lotto Intermarché. Then Cofidis, Pinarello Q36.5. And then some of the smaller Pro Conti teams like Total Energies, Flanders Baloise, Unibet, and so on. So like I said, the start list wasn't great, but that doesn't mean we didn't have great racing. The opening stage around Bellegarde was not particularly interesting up until the final climb of the Côte de la Méditerranée. I think it was only 500 or 600 meters at about 6%, but in the last 200 to 300 meters, Lucas Kubish of Unibet Rose Rockets attacked. He got a gap on everyone except for Tom Krabbe of Flanders Baloise. And then through the final left-hand corner, Krabbe opened up on the inside, got a run on Kubish and took the win. Super exciting, particularly because Krabbe's teammate Victor Vokoyi had been on the attack the entire day. It looked on multiple occasions like they were going to get caught and just managed to stay out in the lead. He was only caught at the bottom of the final climb with about 600 meters to go. So for Krabbe to come over the top and actually get the win for the team was really exciting. Stage 2, Saint-Gilles to Domessargues. This one ended in a bunch sprint, but again, it really went down to the last moments. The breakaway looked like on multiple occasions they were going to get caught. They never did. They kept on staying out there, and then as teams got into position, probably in like the last 5 kilometers, the teams that got in good position on the front of the peloton didn't want to give it up, but they also didn't want to spend the energy to go faster because they were already where they were. So that allowed the break to stay away much longer than expected. Arnaud Tendon of Van Riezel-Roubaix, he had attacked his breakaway companions with about 1,500 meters to go and looked like he might pull it off. The finish line just dragged up about 1.5%, and Decathlon, CMA CGM drilled it on the front. They closed the gap, and then when the sprint opened up, Tendon was caught and only managed 13th on the day, but super exciting for Van Riezel-Roubaix. It was a great performance. In the end, it was Matthew Kuckelman of Lotto Intermarché who got the stage win, with Dylan Groenewegen in second and Matteo Moschetti of Pinarello Q36.5. He finished in third on the day. Stage 3, we had a circuit race around Bessèges. This one was much more of a guaranteed bunch sprint. Not much to really say on the stage, but it was another second place for Lucas Kubish and Unibet Rose Rockets. Henry Ulig of Alpecin Premier Tech took the sprint win in pretty convincing fashion, with Kubish in second and Louis Hardouin of Van Riezel-Roubaix in third. Stage 4, to Vauvert. This one was pretty interesting. So it was sort of in one of those situations where, pretty tight technical last 2 kilometers. There was a downhill into Vauvert and then a handful of turns through roundabouts in the last kilometer. And then they went up the finishing climb. They did that circuit 3 times with the finishing climb of, again, about 500 meters at 5%. The break was only caught sort of on the last downhill with about 2 kilometers to go. And then it was Decathlon, CMA, CGM who lit into the last sort of like 500, 600 meters, very similar to stage one. But this time, it was Andrea Mifsud who attacked, and he really broke up the decathlon train. Mifsud went way too long, so he blew and ended up finishing 11th on the stage. But yeah, it made for a really explosive finale, and it was Joop Hermans of Van Rysel-Roubaix who got the stage win, with again Lucas Kubish in second place for the Rockets, and Paul Lapierre of Decathlon in third. So Decathlon did a lot of work, but they only managed third on the day. But another really strong performance from Van Rysel-Roubaix, third division team to get the stage win. It's a huge result for them. And then the final day was the individual time trial from Alice up to Le Hermitage. Yeah, rainy, cold day, not much change from previous days. Very wet, very cold. But really, it was the only real opportunity to create time gaps. Up until this point, there were, I believe there were around 30 riders within 30 seconds. So in a 10-kilometer uphill time trial, pretty much everything was still to play for. And Groupama FDJ United came out swinging. They stacked, they took first and second on the stage. With Ewan Costu, transfer over from Arkea BNB from last year. He took the win ahead of his teammate of Maxime Decomble, with Paul Lapierre in third. So after all of the GC times were taken into account, Costu took the win for Groupama. Maxime Decomble took third overall, with Paul Lapierre just missing out on the win by 2 seconds after the TT. So yeah, super exciting race, really close time gaps. Proves that you don't need big hilltop finishes, and you don't need the best riders on the best World Tour teams for a great race. Yeah, a couple standouts, like I said, Groupama. They raced really well on the final day, and then Flanders Baloise with the stage win, leader's jersey on day one, and Van Rysel-Roubaix stage win as well. So yeah, great race overall. All right, next up is the Volta Comunitat Valenciana. Again, 5-day stage race in Spain. Stage one opened up to a lumpy day, but it ended up in a bunch sprint in Torreblanca. Biniam Girmay of NSN Cycling won the sprint ahead of Anna Marit of Red Bull. Yeah, first day of racing for Biniam and his new team. First day, first win. Very exciting for him and the team to get off to such a hot start. But Red Bull bore Hansgrohe again, pushing the top of the stage results with Anna Marit. Yeah, really proving to be a worthwhile signing. He didn't do a lot in Intermarché. I think he might have had a few injuries. He almost got a stage win in the Giro a couple years ago, but yeah, really has stepped up this year with his new team. Stage two was supposed to be probably a big GC day with the individual time trial. 17 kilometers. There was I believe a 3-kilometer climb, but only about 3%. Pretty technical overall, though. There were a lot of turns. but a storm blew in overnight. There was a lot of wind. The finishing gantry blew over, barriers were blowing over. So the race organizers decided to uh, not allow time trial bikes, which was definitely the right decision. They did allow for the stage win to be recorded, but not the times on GC. So still a bit of a head scratcher. If it's safe enough to race for the stage, you'd think it would be safe enough to race for the GC, but um, all times were neutralized for the GC, so only a stage win was up for grabs. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe coming through once again with a first and a second. Evenepoel took the win 8 seconds ahead of his teammate Alexander Vlasov. You could tell that a number of riders were going for it. So yeah, it wasn't just a handful of riders pushing for the stage win, but yeah, the duo from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe took the top two steps. Matthias Vacek of Lidl Trek got third, and I did forget to mention, but on the first day of the race, Mads Pedersen crashed, broke his he broke his wrist and he broke collarbone, so he'll be out for an extended period of time. Fortunately, it was very early in the season. It was his first race day, so there is time to keep training, get healed up, and make it back for some of the classics, which are definitely his main targets for the year. So, yeah, hopefully he heals up quick. It's always better to see the best riders contend all of those races later on in the spring. Third stage, the stage to St. Vincent del Respighi. There's an interesting profile, extremely flat for about the first 100 kilometers, then one big long climb followed by another shorter climb. Pretty much the whole peloton was together by the top of the second climb, but a group got away. A group got away down the descent. That included Jonathan Verven, Florian Vermeersch, Adna Holter, and Andrew August. Those four riders stayed away. Andrew August didn't pull a turn the entire time, and in the last 20 kilometers, he had Ben Turner. He had his teammate Ben Turner in the peloton, so yeah, good excuse to sit back. So he waited and waited. The peloton was coming on them. NSN were pulling super hard for Biniam for a second stage win, but they just missed out. Because Jonathan Verven in the last 500 meters really increased the pace. He sort of was the one to blink first in the move in the front group. He pushed the group just far enough ahead, but it was too far for his own personal gain. He ended up just basically leading out the group. Andrew August attacked from fourth wheel and with fresher legs was able to sprint to the win. His first professional win. He's been on the scene now. I think this is his second or third year, but he's only 20 years old. So really good to get his name up on the winner board. Stage 4. This ended up being the main GC day. Very extremely difficult first half of the stage with the Alto de Miserat, 5.5 kilometers at almost 10%. The rest of the day was extremely lumpy, but the tax really came on the Puig de la Llorença, about 15 kilometers from the finish. It was 2.5 kilometer climb at over 9%. Remco attacked, and the only person to really respond immediately was Antonio Tiberi, Bahrain Victorious. In the end, a chase group formed with Magnus Sheffield, Brandon McNulty, Tiberi, Joao Almeida, and Remco's teammate Giulio Pellizzari. They chased and chased. Pellizzari just sat on as a bit of a insurance policy for Red Bull, but they didn't need it because Remco was able to TT his way to the victory. Joao Almeida took second with Pellizzari, then Tiberi, Brandon McNulty, and then Sheffield finished sixth. He kind of fell off the back in the last few kilometers, but he ended up still in sixth place. Another dominant performance by Remco. Maybe some of the races in Mallorca had a bit of a weaker field, so you can say, okay, yeah, Remco is going to steamroll those. You cannot say that about this race. The names that I rattled off, they're super high profile. I mean, really the only other two riders that weren't there were Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogacar. So Remco is currently head and shoulders above everybody but those two who have yet to race. So yeah, we're not sure how their form is, but yeah, Remco is certainly starting the season pretty much as hot as possible. And then the final day um, into Valencia, sort of a will they, won't they make it? So the break of the day, I think there were over 20 riders who actually made the break, but um, over the climb of the Port del Garbi with about 45 kilometers to go. Raul Garcia Pierna, he attacked, was definitely one of the strongest riders in the group. He attacked and then brought with him a handful of riders. And then by the bottom, there was a group of 8. Diego Uriarte, Sven-Erik Bistrom, Andrea Pericas of UAE, Jasper Schoofs of Soudal Quickstep, Emil Herzog was in there, as well as Andrew August again, and then his teammate Kim Hajduk. On the run-in, Burgos was chasing, UAE was chasing. Um, yeah, UAE sort of put the race into the gutter a little bit. There's a little bit of wind, but very technical course on very slippery roads. Both Kim Hajduk and Andrew August both crashed out of the front group, but in the end, 6 riders did make it to the finish to contest the win, and Raul Garcia Pierna of Movistar, he won the sprint ahead of Emil Herzog of Red Bull and Jasper Schoofs. Ben Turner of Ineos led the peloton in just 2 seconds behind, so another very close day where the break made it to the finish. So yeah, that was the last day of racing. The GC finished just how the end of stage 4 was. So Evenepoel took the win, Pellizzari was in third, and Joao Almeida sandwiched in between a Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe duo. So yeah, it was a good addition to the form guide. Kind of see where people are, and it'll be really interesting here in the coming races to see who can improve, sort of who's just really hot right now, who started the season hot, and who can carry it through. All right, the last stage race from this past week, which up at the time of recording, we only have one stage left, this stage to Green Mountain. But yeah, we'll take a look at the first 4 days. So the day 1 to the Bima sinkhole, flat, 171 kilometers, not a lot of action. On the run-in, there was a moment where a handful of feral donkeys seemed to be running across or along the course. Fortunately, they stayed off to the side. Yeah, we didn't need another kangaroo incident from the Tour Down Under, wildlife incident. So yeah, everybody stayed safe, fortunately. And in the end, UAE took another stage, another victory for the season with Juan Sebastian Milano with the sprint win. Fernando Gaviria of Caja Rural in second, and Alperson Premier Tex Newsign and Gerben Tyson in third on the day. Stage 2 to Yiddy Hills. This is always a very difficult stage. There is an extremely steep climb of Bushar Al Amarat, just over 3.5 kilometers at almost 9%. That came about 40 kilometers from the finish. Then there was another climb to Al Hamria. That topped out about 15 kilometers for the finish. That's another 8.5% climb. But the break, one rider managed to stay away. That was Baptiste Wiestraffer. He showed great form in the Muscat Classic, which we didn't cover, but he was alone all day, and just got caught in the last few kilometers there. He was able to hold off the break. He went clear, I think, about 10 or 12 kilometers from Tim Marsman of Alpecin Premier Tech and Patrick Gaz, I guess a Polish name, Gazczerny of Visma Lease Bike. Yeah, super strong effort. The finish is very hard in the Yiti Hills, dragging finish, but yeah, he was able to hold off the peloton and win by 17 seconds. Henrik Mulberhan of XDS Astana and then Thibaut Grul finished in third on the day. Stage 3 was the first real GC day up to Eastern Mountain. There was a crash, unfortunately, coming into the finish, in I think about 5 or 7 kilometers to go, I believe, and that split the peloton. Only about 25 riders actually made it through. Probably by the time the climb started, there were about 70 riders, but they had just made contact once the climb started, so they were sort of washed away just as soon as they got back on. But Jaco Alula did a lot of the pacemaking on the climb. Nairo Quintana had attacked and sort of dangled off the front for maybe about 1,500 meters, 2 kilometers of the climb. But Jaco Alula ramped it up in the end. Mauro Schmidt attacked, and then he was able to take the win by a solitary second to Christian Skroni of XDS Astana and Martin Chota of X Mobility. Sebastian Berwick of Caja Rural, he had a really good year last year, and he finished fourth on the day. So I'll be really excited to see how he goes on the Green Mountain stage. I think he could certainly be a contender for a top 5 overall for the Spanish squad. And then the stage that just finished today to Sohar. It was a flat day, only 146 kilometers, 140 meters of elevation, right along the Gulf of Oman, so from south to north. Really nothing happened during the stage, almost nothing. Baptiste Wiestraffer made an attack when the flag dropped from kilometer 0. He was obviously marked, and then 2 riders got away, but they were caught no problem by the peloton. And in the end, X Mobility got the stage win with Erlen Blickra. A name that I'm unfamiliar with took second, Emmanuel Hoku of Pinarello Q36.5. Young guy, just 22 years old. So, like I said, I'm not familiar with him, but you'll certainly keep your eyes on him as the year goes on. And then Juan Sebastian Milano was probably the out and out fastest guy of the race. He got third on the stage for UAE. We will finish the Tour of Oman next week, but there's only one stage left. It will be the big GC day to Green Mountain. Again, just as a refresher, Green Mountain, super difficult climb. Let me see what the actual gradient is here. So it's 6 kilometers at 10%, but there it goes up in steps. It is extremely difficult, and we'll see significant time gaps in the GC. Okay, let's take a quick look at the UCI points. So these are just released this morning. No surprise, UAE, they've had another really strong start. They're already up to 6 or 7 wins on the year, so they're leading the points haul. Jaco Alula, they won the Muscat Classic. That had a lot of points actually associated with it. They took first and third with Mauro Schmidt, so they took a few hundred points in that race. Red Bull bore Hansgrohe with multiple stage wins and then a GC of first and third in Valencia, catapulted them up into third. And then another notable mention, Groupama FDJ United. I mentioned them last week. They jumped up 9 places. They're into 17th now. Etoile de Bessèges doesn't carry a ton of points, but they took first and third in the GC. They got a stage win and a second place, so they moved up 9 places up to 17th in the points haul. And then it's just some teams that are struggling a little bit. I think of Picnic Post and L, Alpecin Premier Tech. I don't have too much of a concern for Alpecin Premier Tech. Jasper Philipsen has not started. Mathieu Van der Poel has not raced yet, so their big leaders haven't hit the ground running. But yeah, they've had a little bit of a slow start. They did get a stage win with Henry Ulig in Etoile de Bessèges, but again, like I said, that doesn't come with a lot of points. So yeah, we'll see how they turn out in the coming weeks. Leadertrek has also been hit with a bit of a bug. So with Mads Pedersen being out, really they haven't really been present in very many races. So yeah, with all of the money they've been spending on riders, and really they have a super team budget. They've gotten off to an incredibly slow start. So yeah, I'm curious to see how they'll pick up here in the coming weeks. Yeah, and like I said, with Picnic Post and now, I'm not sure where their points are going to come from. They have a handful of riders that that can score, but they don't have the consistent sprinter. They don't have the consistent GC contender who can pick off podiums at every race. So yeah, we'll see what their strategy evolves into as the season progresses. All right, let's take a look at the next race, the Tour de la Provence, starting on Friday. The start list looks quality. Like I said before, with Etoile, we didn't have a huge names, but yeah, Lidl-Trek, Decathlon, Groupama, everyone's coming with a pretty good squad, and Unibet Rose Rockets have one of their star signings of Wout Poels on the start list. I'm pretty excited to see how Matthew Riccatella from Decathlon CMA CGM starts the season. I'm also very excited to see Dorian Godin in Ineos colors. He'll be joined by Axel Laurence, Andrew August, and Victor Langelotti, Carlos Rodriguez. So that's a stacked squad. Other names look like I said, look pretty strong. So take a quick look at the route. First stage, pretty difficult. There is 2,400 meters of climbing across 163 kilometers. I would say probably a reduced bunch sprint though. The hardest climb of the day is right in the middle of the stage. And then there's the Pas de la Cuelle, 5 kilometers, 5%. And then the rest of the day is pretty much, 3 to 4 kilometers at 3 to 4%. So probably a reduced bunch sprint on stage 1. Big GC day on stage 2. It's only a 3-day race, so this is where it will be decided. But 175 kilometers to the Montagne de l'Eure, 3,200 meters of climbing. The Station de l'Eure is the stage will be a summit finish to Station de l'Eure, almost 14 kilometers at 6.5%. So 25-minute climb probably for the guys. That'll be a really good test for everyone to start out the season. And the last day, Rognac to Arles, 205 kilometers. I think this is the first 200 plus kilometer stage of the entire season, I believe. So super long day. Not much to write home about. There's the last 70 kilometers is almost entirely flat, so um, long day, but the sprinters will be able to challenge for the win. Next race, Classica High-End. This is the gravel race. The start list isn't really filled out for it yet, so we'll see who's on it. It doesn't look like Ineos is starting, so hopefully they don't put Egan Bernal in. We want to see him. We want to see him healthy in the start of the year. We don't need another broken collarbone on his first race back. So yeah, he'll be yes. So the like I said, gravel race looks like 167 kilometers, a number of segments, pretty hilly as well. So last year was a very attritional race. Fully expect that this year as well. Next up, the Figueira Championship. Um, Interesting race in Portugal. Beautiful scenery from what I recall from last year. I believe it was Antonio Morgado who won. But yeah, it's a very, very punchy finale. Almost 200 kilometers, 2,300 meters of climbing. But the race is really characterized by a finishing circuit that they do 3 times, an 800-meter climb at 7%, and then 2.3-kilometer climb at almost 8%. So those will really shake up and create an attacking race. Then is the sprint heavy classic Almeria. Um, Hard to see any other scenario other than a sprint. There is a bit of climbing in the first half, but again, the entire last 100 kilometers is very flat. So that will be a bunch sprint. I saw, yeah, Arnaud Delis. I believe he'll make his season debut. Milan Fretin, Emilien Genier. So some good quality sprinters on the start list. Pascal Ackermann, Benyam Girmay, Matteo Moschetti, Yuri Letau. Yeah, so we'll have yeah, it'll be a bit of a sprint royale. Um, yeah, then let's see what else we have. The first 2 stages of the UAE tour. The first stage looks very difficult, 144 kilometers, finishing at the Liwa Palace. Um, 100 meters of climbing. On the elevation chart, it doesn't look like that much, but it's definitely like baby shark teeth. There are tons of little spikes that seem to be, you know, 5 to 6%, but only for a couple hundred meters. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what that route looks like. I haven't looked at the map yet, but that will be an interesting opening stage. And then also the individual time trial that was won by Josh Tarling last year of Ineos. Pan flat, 12 kilometers. There are 2 U-turns on the course, but overall, yeah, very straightforward. Um, it's a good way to open up um, good way to open up the race. And I believe that is it. So that's all we have for the week. A couple of really good, interesting races um, to take a look at for next week. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you then.